Gervonta Davis needed just 58 seconds to completely dismantle Ryan Garcia. Total domination from the very first punch. The crowd went absolutely insane as the fight ended in shocking fashion, leaving everyone speechless.
What you on about, man? It's like, ain't no respect here? And then he responds with, nah, there ain't no respect here. I said, oh, it's like that. Okay, it's like that. Okay, and then he grabbed my chain, but I wasn't worried about it.
Gervonta Davis knocked out Ryan Garcia in 58 seconds, and the crowd did not know what just happened. They were still settling into their seats. Garcia had been the WBC World Champion. He had the momentum, the call-outs, the narrative. He had spent months telling the boxing world that Davis was fading. Then the bell rang, and before anyone could process what they were watching, it was over. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what just happened, why it hit so hard, and what it means for two careers that have been intertwined since 2023.
Without ever hearing in boxing that somebody took a dive or it was scripted and now I can't see a boxing fight where that topic in conspiracy doesn't lift. So just to start with how rare that is and how difficult it is to get up. Now, hold on, because Ryan Garcia was hurt, and I don't mean physically, I mean emotionally.
If you clicked this video, you already know the result. 58 seconds, done. Most people watching right now are going to process this as a simple story. Davis is dangerous, Garcia got caught, the puncher won. Next fight, move on. But that is not the full story, not even close. What just happened in that ring is the conclusion of a 3-year arc that started in April 2023, when Davis stopped Garcia with a body shot in round 7 on brutal weight terms. Garcia spent the next 3 years rebuilding, winning the WBC belt, calling Davis out publicly, questioning his resume, demanding the rematch on fair ground. He got it. He got everything he asked for: fair weight, fair terms, a world championship on his waist. And Davis ended it in 58 seconds. We are breaking this down in 3 parts. First, what Garcia's campaign meant and how it both made this fight and shaped Davis's mindset going in. Second, what the 58-second finish says about Davis right now, coming off a year of legal battles, a frozen career, and a pound-for-pound ranking that had completely evaporated. And third, the twist that the entire boxing world is going to be sitting with after this, because the story did not end in that ring. It just changed direction. To understand why 58 seconds is so much more than a fight result, you need to understand everything that came before the bell rang. In April 2023, Gervonta Davis stopped Ryan Garcia at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, 7th round, body shot, 1 minute and 44 seconds into the round. Garcia took a knee and did not beat the count. Davis was declared the new face of boxing. Garcia said, "He just caught me with a good shot and I couldn't recover." What happened in the 3 years that followed is one of the more dramatic swings in recent boxing history. Garcia went through a drug test failure, a no contest against Haney, a year-long suspension, and a loss to Rolando Romero. Then he came back. On February 21, 2026, he defeated Mario Barrios at T-Mobile Arena by unanimous decision, 119-108, 120-107, 118-109, to become WBC welterweight world champion. He dropped Barrios in the first round. He was dominant. Terence Crawford called the performance amazing. Davis, in that same span, fought to a majority draw with Lamont Roach in March 2025 and was widely seen as having underperformed. His WBA title was stripped in January 2026. He faced active felony kidnapping charges in Miami. His Jake Paul payday was canceled. He went from boxing's biggest American star to a fighter whose next confirmed negotiation was an Isaac Cruz rematch on Prime Video. And then Garcia called him out, publicly, repeatedly, with crowds behind him. And this is where the story gets complicated. Now, most people will frame Garcia's call-out campaign as something that backfired. He talked too much and paid for it. Simple story. But here's what nobody is connecting. Garcia's public campaign was the most effective promotional work in boxing in years, and it worked exactly as intended, up until the moment the bell rang. Since winning the WBC belt in February 2026, Garcia had been relentless. He questioned Davis's resume on Boxing 247, pointing out that since their 2023 fight, Garcia had battled Devin Haney, Rolando Mamiro, and Mario Barrios, while Davis struggled to a draw with Lamont Roach and then disappeared from the sport. Garcia called Davis out at press conferences, with crowds going absolutely insane. He publicly commented on Davis's legal troubles, calling him an angry little fucker after surveillance footage from the Miami strip club incident was released. He demanded the rematch on equal terms. No brutal catchweight, no 10-pound rehydration clause, fair weight. And it worked. The fight got made. Davis, for the first time in years, had an opponent who was a legitimate world champion, calling him out from a position of genuine strength. Garcia had the belt Davis beat him without. But here is what Garcia could not have fully calculated. Every single word of that campaign was fuel for the most dangerous puncher in boxing. Davis had been in legal proceedings. He had been publicly questioned. His career had been called into question by analysts, fans, and now by the WBC world champion himself. He had not knocked anyone out since 2024. The tank brand, built entirely on explosive, shocking power, was being tested in real time. Garcia gave Davis the kind of motivation that no training camp can manufacture, and when the bell rang for round one, that motivation came out in 58 seconds. But that's not even the most important part of this story. And this is where the real story, the one that changes everything people thought they knew about where Gervonta Davis stood, finally lands. Davis had not fought since March 2025. A majority draw with Lamont Roach, a fight he was widely expected to win comfortably. A fight where he took a knee in round 9, claiming grease from his braids dripped into his eye. A fight that prompted the boxing world to ask for the first time whether the version of Davis that knocked out Ryan Garcia in 2023 was still there. In the year that followed, Davis was arrested. His title was stripped. His Paul exhibition fell apart. His civil lawsuit proceeded in court. He filed a $20 million countersuit. The kidnapping charge remained active. The boxing world had moved on. Garcia was the champion, Shakur Stevenson was the next big name, and Davis was the fighter negotiating with Isaac Cruz for a summer return, because those were the fights available. And then Garcia stepped into the ring. 58 seconds. That number does not just tell you what Davis did to Garcia, it tells you that the version of Davis that came into that ring was not the version from the Roach draw. It was not the version from the legal headlines. It was a man who had spent a year watching his entire career narrative shift away from him, and decided that the only acceptable answer was the most emphatic finish possible. One punch, one shot. The kind of finish that sends a message not just to Garcia, but to every fighter, promoter, and analyst who spent 2025 writing the Davis obituary. Davis said after the first fight in 2023, "I'm definitely the face of boxing. Absolutely." He did not need to say it again after 58 seconds. The crowd said it for him. But here's what nobody is connecting right now, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here is the twist that makes 58 seconds the most meaningful number in boxing right now. Garcia's call-out campaign was completely legitimate. Every point he made about Davis's resume, about the Roach draw, about the legal situation, all of it had merit. Garcia had taken the harder fights. He had faced elite opposition. He had won a world title by beating a defending champion cleanly. He had earned the rematch argument. And he was right that the rematch needed to happen on fair terms. It did. No brutal catchweight, no 10-pound rehydration clause, real stakes, a world championship on the line. And Davis knocked him out in 58 seconds. That is the twist. Garcia's argument was correct. The terms were fair, the platform was real, and it still ended in 58 seconds. Because there are two different questions in boxing that often get confused. One is who deserves the fight. The other is who wins the fight. Garcia deserved this fight. He had earned every right to be in that ring with a world title and a fair set of terms. But deserving the fight and winning the fight are two completely separate conversations. What the boxing world is sitting with right now is the realization that Gervonta Davis, legal troubles, stripped title, year out of the ring, everything, is still the most dangerous puncher in the sport when motivated. And Ryan Garcia, to his enormous credit, spent 6 months providing exactly the motivation that turned Davis into something the sport had not seen since 2023. Garcia's call-out campaign created the biggest fight. Davis's right hand ended it before the crowd finished its first sip. Here's where we land. Ryan Garcia spent 3 years rebuilding from that 2023 loss. He won the WBC belt. He got the rematch. He got the fair terms. He stood in that ring as world champion with everything he had asked for. And Gervonta Davis knocked him out in 58 seconds. This is not a story about Garcia failing. This is a story about what happens when you give the most motivated version of the most dangerous puncher in boxing exactly the stage he needs. Garcia built that stage. Davis used it. The question boxing has to answer right now is the most divisive one possible. Does Ryan Garcia deserve a third fight after what he built? The WBC title, the campaign, the fair terms? Or did 58 seconds prove that this rivalry has already delivered its verdict, and Garcia needs to look somewhere else? Drop your take below. If you want the full story on everything happening in boxing before it hits mainstream media, hit subscribe.